The film opens in the 1950s near the California desert, in a company town called Victory. On the surface it looks perfect, neat houses, smiling neighbors, routines polished to a shine. Each morning the husbands drive out to Victory headquarters beyond town, while the wives stay behind to keep immaculate homes and attend ballet lessons led by Shelley. The rules are firm and simple. Wives may not ask what their husbands do, and approaching headquarters is absolutely forbidden. Among the model couples are Alice and her husband Jack. Their marriage appears passionate. They throw lively parties, flirt openly, and move through town like they own it. Alice's closest friend is Bunny, who often arrives with her husband for drinks and laughter. Alice and Jack share a favorite tune that Alice hums without thinking while she dusts or cooks. Now and then the ground gives a brief shiver, a few seconds of tremor that feels like an earthquake. When Alice asks if it is tied to Victory's mysterious project, Jack smiles it off and changes the subject, and Alice lets it go to keep the peace. One afternoon after ballet, Alice and Bunny watch men in red jumpsuits unload a truck for a new neighbor. Their gossip turns to Margaret, who has skipped class again and has become the town's outcast since a strange incident no one will fully explain. Later, Alice tends her garden and sees Margaret standing statue, still in her own yard, gripping a toy airplane with her eyes shut as if lost in a trance. It is as though she sees a pair of eyes staring from the dark. Unsure how to react, Alice turns away. That evening, an unnerving detail jolts Alice in the kitchen. Every egg she cracks is hollow, an empty shell. Before she can puzzle it out, the oven alarms and she rushes to save dinner, pushing the oddity aside. A few days later at Shelley's pool party, Alice hums that familiar melody until Bunny snaps, tired of hearing it. Alice freezes. She has no idea what the song is called, only that it lives in her head. As the tune loops, disjointed images flicker at the edge of her vision, fragments she cannot place, until Bunny distracts her again. The party pauses when Shelley and her husband Frank, the town's charismatic chief executive, step up to welcome new neighbors. Suddenly Margaret blurts that none of them should be here. Her husband hustles her away, leaving a fog of discomfort. Frank recovers the room, praising a community built on safety and order. Still unsettled, Alice visits Margaret's house. Through a half-open door she sees Margaret's husband dosing her with medication. Margaret whispers that she is not fine, that she has terrible dreams, that they are hiding her. The door swings shut. Shaken, Alice returns to the party and finds Jack in Frank's study, calmly adjusting his tie. Jack pulls her close and gets intimate right there. Then Frank walks in, watches in eerie silence, and leaves without a word. Alice never tells Jack. The next day, during a shopping trip, the women pick at Margaret's story. Some call her unstable after an accident, but Bunny cuts them off. It was no accident. Margaret broke the one unspoken rule. She wandered into the desert with her child after claiming to see something. When she was found, she clutched only the boy's toy plane. The child was gone. Margaret swears they took him as punishment. The floor shivers again and no one reacts. They are used to it. A neighbor wonders if the men are secretly building weapons. Bunny bristles and reminds them that wives must support husbands and stop asking questions. That night, Alice dreams in jagged, unsettling flashes, and the images cling when she wakes. Restless, she rides the trolley for air. Instead of getting off at the mall, she stays seated to watch the desert roll by, which the driver finds odd. Then, a plane just like the toy Margaret held spirals out of the sky and goes down in the dunes. Alice begs the driver to detour. He refuses. Rules are rules, so Alice steps off and walks into the heat alone. After a long trudge, she reaches a lonely hill laced with a spiral road. She climbs to the top where a sleek glass dome sits like a mirage. She calls out, gets no answer, and inches closer. When she lays her palms on the glass, her body seizes, her head snaps back as a torrent of surreal images floods her. Geometric flashes, faceless figures, fragments of sound, while Frank's voice drones about leaving chaos behind. Alice blinks and finds herself in her own bed, back in her perfect house. Dizzy, she stumbles to the kitchen where Jack is clattering pans, proud he let her sleep. He says she was already home when he returned the previous evening. Alice cannot remember. She mentions the plane crash. Jack dismisses it. If a crash had happened, the whole town would be buzzing. Frustrated and frightened, Alice tells herself it was a bad dream. Jack smooths the moment with warmth and bumbling jokes about his awful cooking, and the facade of victory settles over them again. The next day, while cleaning the windows, Alice is struck by another terrifying hallucination. The wall behind her seems to surge forward, pinning her to the glass as if trying to crush the air from her lungs. She fights it, blinking in panic. Then, in an instant, everything snaps back to normal. Shaking, she steadies herself just as the phone rings. On the line is Margaret, her voice thin and urgent. "Did you see it?" Margaret insists they are being lied to and that everyone should leave Victory. Alice cannot handle the confrontation. She clings to her sanity, insists she is not crazy, and abruptly hangs up. Even so, Margaret's warning echoes in her head like a refrain she cannot mute. At the next ballet class, Alice's composure cracks. In the mirror, her reflection morphs into Margaret. At first, Margaret mimics Alice's steps. Then she plants both hands on the glass and slams her head into it again and again. Alice screams. No one else knows what she is reacting to. She spins back toward the mirror. Margaret has vanished. Alice rushes home and finds Margaret on her own rooftop. Alice begs through tears, pleading for her to come down. Margaret does not respond. She steps forward and ends her life. Alice screams and runs toward the house, but before she can reach the body, men in red jumpsuits arrive with clinical precision and carry Margaret away. That evening, Alice tells Jack exactly what she saw. He will not believe her. Margaret's husband has assured everyone she is in the hospital, recovering from an accident while cleaning the windows. Treated as if she is unraveling, Alice presses Jack about his job, about Victory, about all the secrets no one is allowed to question, until he snaps. He warns that asking the wrong questions could cost them their comfortable life. He tells her to stop and storms out, leaving her alone with dread. Unable to sleep, Alice numbly turns on the television. Instead of relief, another vision surges up. She is drowning in a pool, smothered by an invisible force, the same suffocating pressure she felt when the wall moved. She blinks and finds herself at the window, fingers on the latch, as if she had been sleepwalking toward an escape. Morning brings no peace. While wrapping leftovers, Alice's hands begin to move without her. The plastic winds tight across her torso. She gasps, tears it off, and finally admits to herself that she is losing control. Moments later, Jack returns with Dr. Collins. Calm and clinical, Collins concludes that Alice is suffering from stress, brought on by witnessing Margaret's fall. When Alice insists she saw something else, Collins gently contradicts her. The grieving mind, he says, can reshape reality. He offers medication. Alice and Jack refuse, promising she does not need it. Alice notices a detail Collins did not intend for her to see. His briefcase contains classified files on Margaret. She asks what became of her friend. Collins explains that Margaret had paranoid outbursts that kept her husband from doing his work. He was dismissed from Victory, and Margaret was sent away for treatment. The meeting ends, Collins departs, and moments later realizes he left his briefcase behind. In the gap, Alice lunges for it, rifling for answers. When Collins returns, she smoothly claims she was about to hand it back. He thanks her and leaves. Only then does the truth surface. Alice has lifted Margaret's file after all. But each page is a slab of ink names, dates, diagnoses, all blacked out. With nothing to learn and guilt prickling her skin, Alice feeds the pages to the fireplace and sips whiskey in silence, thinking of Margaret. Later, still unsteady, she slips into a bath. Warm water loosens her guard. The disturbing images surge again, strobing shapes, faceless figures, but now they are threaded with tenderness, a couple holding each other, a half-remembered melody. Jack arrives, drops a needle on a record, and the spell breaks. Standing in the doorway, oddly casual, he asks if they should have a baby. Alice, blindsided, says she will think about it. That night, they attend a lavish dinner hosted by Frank at a fashionable restaurant. Across the room, Alice notices Frank watching her as he confers with Dr. Collins. The scrutiny needles her. Then a dancer performs, her angular movements echoing Alice's nightmares. Tears well. Alice begs Jack to take her home. He ignores her because Frank is about to speak. To Alice's surprise, Frank calls Jack to the stage and announces his promotion. Applause rises like a tide. For Alice, the sound is a roar inside her skull. She bolts to the bathroom in a full breakdown, where the vision of the embracing couple returns, intimate, impossible to place, and achingly familiar. Bunny finds her there, trembling but stern. Alice tries to explain the visions, the lies, the certainty that the world is wrong. Bunny does not want to hear it. She scolds Alice for breaking rules and ruining Jack's big night, tells her to stop behaving like a child, and orders her to be a proper wife. A few days later, Jack hosts a dinner at their home with Frank and Shelley as honored guests. While Alice cooks, Frank corners her in the kitchen, saying she fascinates him. Great men, he claims, only change history when they are challenged, and he hopes she keeps pushing. When it is time to sit, Alice pointedly takes the head of the table, Jack's usual seat, so she can stare Frank down. As small talk begins, she cuts in and asks everyone about their lives before Victory. The stories sound eerily alike, as if memorized. She suggests these backstories exist to overwrite their real memories. Just like Margaret's, Jack tries to shut her down, but Frank invites her to continue. Emboldened, Alice lays out everything she has seen and accuses Frank of selling a perfect lie. Frank remains impassive and tells the room Alice suffers the same psychosis as Margaret, even implying she trespassed in his bedroom. The air goes brittle. Shelley finally explodes, calling Alice out for humiliating her husband, then storms out. The other guests follow. Jack walks them to the door, while Frank lingers just long enough to tell Alice he expected more from her. When Jack returns, Alice snaps. Jack fires back, accusing her of sabotaging his big night. Desperate, she swears that was not her intent. Jack means more to her than Victory, and they need to leave before this place destroys their marriage. After tearful pleading, Jack relents. They will run. Alice packs only the essentials and bolts to the car, heart pounding with relief. Then Jack murmurs an apology. Confused, she asks what for, until the men in red surround the car, haul her out and drag her away as she screams. Jack collapses in tears, powerless before the decision he has already made. Alice is strapped down in a hospital and subjected to electroshock. Pain fractures her mind, and the visions finally lock into place. The mysterious couple is Alice and Jack, living in modern times. She is a doctor working brutal shifts, humming the same tune that haunts Victory. Jack is unemployed. Alice reassures him she can cover them by taking extra shifts. The strain grinds her down. One night she comes home exhausted and finds Jack has not cooked. When she is too drained for intimacy, he sulks. Alone and insecure, he binges Frank's podcast, which preaches that men must reclaim their true selves from a smothering society. Back in Victory, Alice wakes in the hospital again. Dr. Collins declares her fixed, and she has returned to her routine as if nothing happened. Days pass in glossy quiet, until Jack comes home singing that same irritating song from her visions. Alice freezes. The truth clicks. The Jack from the real world applied to the Victory Project to build his ideal life. That choice gave him access to a machine hidden in their real apartment that keeps Alice connected to the simulation 24 hours a day. Like all the wives, her Victory life is not real. The men log in for only a few hours, going to work by disconnecting and leaving for the desert headquarters in the simulation, while in reality Jack tends Alice's body and works low, pay jobs to fund the tech. Inside Victory, the flood of real memories slams into Alice. She demands answers. Jack turns defensive, shouting that he did it for them, that the real world made them miserable. To Alice, it is theft of consent, of autonomy, and gaslighting that made her doubt her sanity. She worries about the other women and their children. Jack coldly clarifies, the children are not real either. He drops to his knees, sobbing, clinging to her so tightly she can barely breathe, begging forgiveness. Something breaks. Alice seizes a glass and smashes it against his head. Jack crumples. She does not realize death in Victory means death outside. As his simulated body collapses, his real heart stops. Frank gets a call about Jack's death. Bunny rushes into Alice's house, covers Jack's body, and tries to steady her. When Alice babbles the truth, Bunny quietly admits she already knew. She chose Victory because it is the only place she can be with her children again after losing them in real life. If Alice wants to live, Bunny says, she must reach headquarters and disconnect herself. Jack can no longer do it for her. Terrified but resolute, Alice steps outside. Neighbors spill into the street. Streetlights pop one by one, showering sparks. The women sense something is wrong, but the men swarm, demanding to know where Jack is and trying to block Alice. Bunny shoves them aside and buys Alice a few precious seconds. Alice dives into a car and tears off as the men in red arrive, commandeering vehicles to give chase. A scorching pursuit rips through Victory and out into the desert. The red-suited drivers ram her car, trying to push her off the road. Dr. Collins barrels in from behind to cut her off. Cornered, Alice makes a razor-fast choice. She jerks her wheel, forcing Collins and the other pursuers into each other. Metal screams, cars flip. In the distance, Frank will never answer the next call. Shelley has already ended his reign. Alice guns it toward the familiar hill. The spiral road claws upward. Halfway, the car chokes on a brutal turn and stalls. She bails, sprinting on foot. Behind her, the men abandon their vehicles and begin to climb. Alice pushes her body past its limit, lungs burning, vision tunneling, but she does not stop until she reaches the shimmering dome. There, for a heartbeat, Jack appears, soft pleading, arms around her, asking her to stay. Memories of their real life spill in, sweet and treacherous. The pounding boots behind her snap the trance. With one last eruption of will, Alice slams her hands against the glass. Her body whips back as the cascade of images surges, fractured visions, and then, threaded through the static, the truth of who she is. Everything turns black, and Alice gasps.